Before delving into the unsettling events that transpired in Tripalinerova, events that affected not just me but my entire family, I feel compelled to address an inevitable question. Why did this particular individual, so deeply entangled in this nightmare, mean so much to me? What drove me to repeatedly come to their aid, even when it meant potentially compromising my responsibilities to my wife and child? The answer lies in a decade of friendship, trust, and shared experiences that shaped both our lives in ways neither of us could have anticipated on that spring morning in high school. Our paths first crossed in Silesia during our final year of high school, in that peculiar atmosphere of nervous anticipation that always surrounds important examinations. We found ourselves sharing the shade of an ancient birch tree outside the examination hall, its leaves casting dappled shadows on our textbooks as we anxiously awaited our mathematics test. The morning air was crisp, filled with the whispered repetition of formulas and theorems from fellow students. I remember asking to share her chocolate, a simple gesture she graciously accepted, breaking off a piece of the dark chocolate with almonds she always carried. We fell into easy conversation, sharing laughs and discussing the leaked exam answers circulating online, both of us trying to mask our anxiety with humor and casual banter. 3 hours later, we reconnected outside, our minds still buzzing with equations and geometric proofs, comparing our approaches to various problems and agreeing to keep each other updated on our results. What followed was the formation of a genuine, unshakable friendship, one of those rare connections that seem to transcend the usual social boundaries and expectations. Having been in a relationship with my future wife for several years at that point, there was never any question of romantic involvement with Alisa. Our platonic bond remained pure and strong, built on a foundation of shared interests, mutual respect, and an uncanny ability to understand each other's thoughts without words. We both secured admission to the same institute, our academic paths aligning as naturally as our friendship had. We successfully completed our first year, navigating the challenges of higher education together, before mutually deciding to take an academic break. My reason was straightforward: the birth of my son, while Alisa chose to pause her studies in solidarity, planning to spend the year working and self-discovering before returning to academia alongside me. Her decision surprised many, but to those who knew us, it was perfectly in character with her loyal nature. Alisa's privileged background was evident in her parents' generous gifts. A spacious 3-bedroom apartment near campus, its windows offering a panoramic view of the city, a branded car that she often used to help friends in need, and regular financial support that arrived without question or condition, making her decision to temporarily halt her education entirely feasible. Yet despite her comfortable circumstances, Alisa never displayed any sense of superiority or entitlement. Instead, she used her resources to help others, particularly during the challenging times that followed. My son Antosha was born with certain health complications, his tiny body struggling with respiratory issues that necessitated frequent medical visits and consultations. The sterile corridors of hospitals and clinics became our second home, and it was during these trying times that Alisa proved invaluable. Whether it was connecting us with experienced pediatricians through her family's extensive network, providing transportation to appointments in her reliable car, or simply offering emotional support during particularly difficult diagnoses, she became an integral part of our support system. While my wife harbored some understandable jealousy toward my friend, our son adored Alisa, his face lighting up with joy in her presence, his small hands reaching for her whenever she entered the room. Following our academic hiatus and gradual improvements in my son's health, we resumed our studies with a more pragmatic approach to education. Our second year saw us adopting a strategic stance toward our coursework. I attended only essential practical sessions, outsourcing note-taking and test preparation to paid classmates who needed the extra income. Course papers were commissioned online, a strategy Alisa also adopted, both of us prioritizing efficiency over traditional academic engagement. The pressures of balancing family life, work, and studies had taught us to be practical rather than idealistic about our education. Though our daily interactions decreased during this period, We maintained our weekend meetings without fail, creating a ritual that became sacred to our friendship. We would meet at various cafes or in her spacious apartment, discussing everything from mundane daily occurrences to our deepest fears and aspirations. Alisa persistently attempted to bridge the gap with my wife, repeatedly emphasizing the platonic nature of our friendship, bringing thoughtful gifts for both her and Antosha, and always respecting the boundaries of our family life. 3 years later, we graduated with our bachelor's degrees, both declining to pursue master's programs despite pressure from various quarters. I secured a mortgage for an apartment, finally moving my family from the cramped confines of student housing into a comfortable 2-bedroom home, intentionally choosing a location near Alisa's residence. The proximity allowed us to maintain our close friendship while respecting the demands of our increasingly busy lives. Our professional paths diverged naturally. Alisa worked part-time in our field of study, still supported by her parents' generous financial backing, while I pursued more lucrative opportunities in a different sector, driven by the responsibilities of supporting a young family. Yet our friendship endured, weathering the changes in our lives with remarkable resilience. Our mutual support remained unwavering, and when I proposed she become my son's godmother, it felt like the natural progression of her role in our lives, formally acknowledging the deep bond she shared with our family. Our relationship was marked by minimal conflicts, quick reconciliations, and a complete absence of malicious teasing or passive-aggressive behavior. We had developed a level of trust and understanding that made petty disputes seem beneath us. Therefore, when Alisa first mentioned noticing a strange observer and shared her concerns, I immediately took her seriously, knowing she wasn't prone to paranoia or exaggeration. She first raised the issue on May 14 via message, her usually confident tone replaced by an undercurrent of anxiety as she described a persistent sensation of being watched that had lasted several days. The timestamp on her message 2347 suggested she had hesitated before reaching out, perhaps doubting her own perceptions. She elaborated in a voice message, her normally steady voice carrying a slight tremor. "Igor, sorry for the late message, but I am truly unsettled. You know that feeling when you re-queuing or passing mannequins in a mall? That sensation of being intensely observed? It's similar, but only in certain spaces. The living room triggers anxiety, while the kitchen, bedroom, and study feel normal. It's as if someone's gaze is focused on me, but only in specific areas of my apartment." I responded via text, my fingers hovering over the keyboard as I considered various logical explanations, finally inquiring about her lighting situation. Alisa replied that regardless of lighting conditions, whether in bright daylight or the dim glow of evening, the unsettling feeling persisted, seeming to intensify as darkness fell. The memory of struggling to transport her heavy antique cabinet to church for blessing suddenly sparked a crucial question, one that had been nagging at the edges of my consciousness. "Alisa, are you keeping your curtains drawn?" The question seemed to hang in the digital space between us, pregnant with implications. Her response was telling. A frightened emoji followed by a simple, "No," and silence, the 3 dots trailing off into the night like footprints in snow. The lack of further messages spoke volumes about her state of mind. That night, exhaustion weighed heavily on me after a long day at work and an evening spent at the pediatric pulmonologist with my son, but her situation lingered in my thoughts, keeping me awake despite my physical fatigue. The image of her alone in her apartment, feeling watched, merged with memories of our shared history, creating a sense of unease that would prove prophetic in the days to come. Exhaustion finally claimed me as I drifted off to sleep, my phone still clutched in my hand, awaiting a response that hadn't come. The morning brought an unexpected development. My phone's notification light revealed 9 unread messages in our conversation thread. The messages painted a disturbing picture. It's extraordinary. The sensation completely vanished. "I can hardly believe it," she wrote, before her tone shifted dramatically with an urgent message in capital letters. "Gera. Someone's watching me from the building across, by the kindergarten. A man's just staring," she had typed frantically. A voice message followed, her words tumbling out in a stream of anxiety. She detailed her immediate response, drawing all the curtains, a familiar defensive action that seemed to provide some relief. Her message conveyed genuine surprise at her own reaction, noting how she never previously felt unsettled by windows at night, even regularly working beside one in her office without concern. Her narrative continued, describing how curiosity eventually overcame her fear. She cautiously parted the curtains, attempting to project confidence, only to have her worst fears confirmed. The figure stood in the building she mentioned, the one housing the local kindergarten. Being on the 7th floor herself, she had a clear view. She attached photographic evidence. A stark image showing a tall building illuminated by streetlights, capturing a broad-shouldered silhouette framed in an open balcony window. The figure's face remained indistinct in the darkness. Her subsequent voice message elaborated on details the photo couldn't capture. Though the figure had moved back slightly when she took the picture, she emphatically insisted their eyes had met. He acknowledged me with a nod, as if to say, "Yes, I see you," she recounted, her voice trembling as she expressed concerns about possible binoculars and voyeuristic intentions. 2 final messages followed, revealing increasing distress. "Gera, my hands stop shaking. You, offline, probably asleep." The second message conveyed her growing unease at the unsettling gesture. Upon reading these messages, I immediately initiated a call. She answered from her office, speaking briefly due to work constraints, but we arranged to meet that same day. Her voice carried a noticeable tremor, betraying even greater fear than during the previous night's events. Our meeting revealed her typically polished appearance replaced by pallor, bare face, and prominent dark circles beneath her eyes, a rare sight in our years of friendship. She retrieved a bottle of herbal sedative from her bag, adding several drops to her water before beginning her account. "I believe they pieced it together, though I am not entirely certain," she started, referencing a film we both seen about a psychologist who turned out to be a ghost. I nodded in recognition. She continued, explaining how rewatching it with someone had revealed new layers of meaning, connecting previously overlooked details. Her voice faltered as she approached the core of her story. 2 or 3 months ago, I discovered a note on my desk, one of those square sticky notes we all use. The message was odd. "I see you." I asked around but eventually discarded it, she recounted. 2 weeks ago, another appeared on my keyboard, this time with a flower attached. Not a real one, but a cutout of an aster from somewhere. She explained her part-time arrangement, sharing the workspace with a colleague, which had initially led her to dismiss the notes as someone else's concern. Recently, they've been avoiding my mail, leaving bills unopened in the hallway, planning to deal with them later, she continued. That same evening, the burning sensation began. I attributed it to my sinuses and took sleeping medication. But last night, it returned, prompting my messages to you. A passing motorcycle outside the cafe caused her to jump, her hands trembling. I reached across to steady her, encouraging her to continue. She produced a white utility bill envelope from her bag and slid it toward me. Inside, I found half a sheet of graph paper. My heart lurched at the message, pressed deeply in pencil. "I know where." Alongside it was a partial business card, its phone number removed, but the company name visible. The source of the flower became clear. The dark blue aster had been cut from a funeral home's business card. I felt the blood rush to my face as the implications sank in. The perpetrator's actions were despicable beyond measure. Leisha sat there, her nose congested from crying, tears streaming down her face as she spoke. She intended to complete the task that morning, but then there was that thing. It must have been protruding from the drawer, or perhaps someone had carefully extracted it. With enough determination, accessing it wouldn't have been impossible. That's exactly what he did. Removed it and planted that horrifying thing inside. Today, Leisha's body trembled violently, barely containing a scream. Her breathing was rapid and labored. Other patrons at nearby tables cast furtive glances in our direction. Two waitresses hovering near the service counter whispered suspiciously among themselves. I shifted to her side of the booth then, putting an arm around her shoulders, assuring her of her present safety. Though truthfully, I felt completely lost about how to handle the situation. When she regained some composure, she dabbed her eyes with a napkin and retrieved a crumpled note from her jeans pocket. "This appeared on my desk today," she whispered. Written in black marker on a pale yellow paper scrap were the words, "I am coming to see you." "No," I growled, feeling rage build in my chest. "First things first. We're going to the police station today. You know where he lives, you've seen it yourself. We'll catch him immediately. And even if we don't catch him right away, I won't abandon you. If you want, you can stay at my place temporarily. There's a spare room you can use." Leisha thanked me, but my words did little to ease her anxiety. We headed straight to the police station from the cafe. Initially dismissed, they eventually accepted our complaint. Our naive hopes were quickly dashed. No one intended to apprehend the suspect immediately. The duty officer calmly explained, "Anyone can be accused, but if we go to his place, he won't open the door." What then? Break it down? That would just create more paperwork. To my questions about what actions we could take, he responded with the same detachment. "Wait for the district officer to contact you." We left the station defeated, got into the car, and drove to my place. Leisha insisted I drive, though I didn't own a car. I maintained my license since college. Unable to reach my wife while driving, I left Leisha in the car upon arriving at my building and rushed up to negotiate. But I walked into a heated argument. Despite my desperate pleas to temporarily shelter a frightened woman, my wife adamantly refused. The situation escalated to hysteria. Appeals to female solidarity fell on deaf ears as she maintained her position, repeatedly declaring her heart was breaking from jealousy before running to comfort our confused child. As if he were the one upset and trembling with anger, not her. I stood there paralyzed, unsure how to react. Images flashed through my mind of the women closest to me, their faces swollen, tear-stained. Those damned notes, the business card from the funeral home. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I startled, retrieved it, glanced at the screen. Leisha calling. I pressed the green button, raised it to my ear, and before I could speak, a piercing scream erupted from the speaker. Gera, help! He's here!" She wailed between sobs, and I bolted toward her. On the staircase, I felt a burning terror inflate like a thorny ball in my chest. Who would I encounter? Who was this person, now bold enough to attack a woman in broad daylight in a residential courtyard? I burst out of the building, scanned the area, no one. Ran to the car, peered inside. Leisha was in the back seat, her belongings scattered everywhere, her small bag clearly ransacked. Bewildered, I looked at my tearful friend, and she, eyes wide with fear, pointed at the windshield. There, held by the wiper blade, was a notebook page, its message visible from inside the car. I carefully removed it and read, "I am coming." Meanwhile, Leisha had unlocked the doors and started gathering her scattered possessions. "Who was it?" I asked, settling into the seat. "Some man," she sobbed, struggling to speak through her terror, her whole body shaking with fear. "You'll definitely be able to identify him. Let's go back to the police station, have them dust for prints." Leisha shook her head. "I won't be able to identify anything. Hood up, white mask like during quarantine, medical gloves." The frustration manifested physically as my palms struck the steering wheel. The situation had become unbearably complex. Not only had my friend narrowly escaped becoming another victim, but the incident had occurred in my own residential complex. Dark thoughts began to invade my consciousness. While concern for my family's safety weighed heavily, I couldn't abandon the investigation. A quick call home confirmed the doors were secured. though the response was terse and abrupt before the line went dead. After some brief grumbling, I proceeded to her residence. We methodically arranged all the documented evidence across her table, attempting to identify any familiar individuals who might be capable of such actions. Our analysis proved inconclusive. As I examined the disturbing, abbreviated messages, I initially dismissed them as juvenile attempts at intimidation. However, the sight of the funeral home's dark letterhead sent an involuntary shiver down my spine, like ice water trickling along my vertebrae. As evening descended, Alicia's anxiety intensified. She couldn't bring herself to enter the living room. I maintained constant vigilance, monitoring her psychological state to prevent another panic episode. During a moment of relative calm, I decided to investigate potential surveillance from the apartment. Employing careful stealth, I entered the living room, approached from an angle, and slowly peered around the curtain. The figure's distinctive broad silhouette was unmistakable. Determining the location, 7th floor, first entrance, I formulated a plan. After warning my agitated friend of my brief departure and instructing her to secure the door, I descended to the courtyard. The area was sparsely populated with residents returning from their workday. I studied each passerby intently, knowing potential witnesses could prove crucial if pursuit became necessary. Taking advantage of an elderly resident's entry, I accessed the building and located the most likely apartment on the 7th floor, the third from the end. As I prepared to announce my presence, inspiration struck. I contacted Alicia, requesting she observe the suspect's reaction through her window. Upon her confirmation of surveillance, I pressed the doorbell with bated breath. "He's moving," she whispered anxiously. He's entered another room. My initial satisfaction at cornering him quickly gave way to the sobering realization that I was completely unarmed, having left even my keys at Alicia's apartment. "The lights just went out," she reported, her voice trembling. "I am scared. My heart's racing." I assured her of my presence and ended the call. Muffled shuffling emanated from behind the door. Drawing a deep breath, I pressed the bell again. A brief melody played within, followed by more quiet footsteps. "Open up," I demanded, moving closer to listen at the lock. The door flew open with startling speed. I barely registered the movement before a powerful impact sent freezing waves through my skull. I collided with the opposite wall, my shoulder taking the brunt as I dropped to one knee. Footsteps thundered down the corridor toward the stairwell. Fighting through the pain, I pursued. The sequence of events became hazy. They repeatedly tried to pinpoint when exactly the power failed, but that detail remains buried in my subconscious. Darkness engulfed the stairwell instantaneously. Heavy footsteps continued below, but my pace had slowed. Using my phone's light, I gripped the railing firmly for guidance. The blackout had affected the entire building. Outside, as the pain subsided slightly, I surveyed the area, muttering, "Where did you run?" Suddenly, a horrifying thought struck me like a bullet, sending chills down my spine from the base of my skull. I sprinted with renewed urgency, desperately hoping to arrive in time, my chest constricting with anxiety. The building's entrance was accessible due to the disabled magnetic locks. Reaching the 7th floor, breathless, I grabbed the door handle and pulled. It yielded easily. I resorted to pounding with both fists, but surprisingly, the neighboring apartment opened instead. In the doorway, illuminated by yellow flashlight beams, stood Alicia alongside another woman. My friend immediately embraced me. "I am so sorry, Gera," she explained. "When the power went out, I immediately went to my neighbor's. I couldn't stay alone." Multiple waves of relief washed over me as my breathing normalized. The stairwell retained its ominous atmosphere. After bidding the neighbor farewell, Alicia retrieved her keys and began unlocking her door, struggling either with the key's rotation or proper insertion. Once inside, I personally engaged the deadbolt to prevent external access. In the kitchen, I inquired about available drinks. Alicia produced vodka from the refrigerator. The glass trembled in my grasp, my heart still racing, while she quickly consumed her first 50 grams. I managed a smile, grateful for her improving composure despite my own lingering anxiety. Before I could take a drink, my wife called. She anxiously reported that Anton was experiencing another attack. She had summoned emergency services, but they hadn't arrived, and our son's condition was deteriorating. I exchanged glances with Alisa, who smiled and nodded understanding. "Come with me," I insisted. "I can't leave you alone." "I've been drinking," she reminded me. Acknowledging my wife's mounting panic, I suggested she take my car. I began searching frantically, moving from the living room to the study, checking the desk and corners for my keys. After exiting the premises, I lingered momentarily to confirm Alisa's door had sealed shut before hastening down the stairwell. En route, I initiated contact with my spouse via mobile phone. We had previously arranged for her and our son Anton to await my arrival at the entrance of our residential building. The journey took approximately 3 minutes. Upon arrival, I facilitated their entry into the rear passenger compartment. Our child's condition was concerning. He lay listlessly across his mother's lap, exhibiting signs of respiratory distress. We proceeded with urgency along the highway leading to the regional medical facility. After covering roughly 3 kilometers, my mobile device signaled an incoming call. Maintaining our trajectory, I answered the device with trembling digits. The subsequent audio transmission remains emblazoned in my consciousness, manifesting regularly in my nocturnal visions. The precise sequence, volume, and tonal qualities of each phoneme were permanently archived in my neural pathways. Alisa's vocalization transcended mere shouting. It possessed the quality of a grievously wounded entity. "Gera, he's here," just beyond the threshold. My response was to increase pressure on the accelerator while maintaining a firm grip on the steering mechanism. From behind, my wife emitted a subtle sob. Anton experienced another coughing episode. After a brief visual assessment of my family members and the deserted roadway ahead, I collected myself sufficiently to respond. "Dearest Alisa, maintain composure. You've secured the entrance, correct? Allow me a moment to alert law enforcement." "Gera," her subsequent exclamation achieved even greater amplitude. "He's breached the apartment." This declaration concluded with an utterance of profound terror. The telecommunication abruptly terminated. The communication device descended somewhere in the vicinity of the pedal assembly. I compressed my labial muscles and, maintaining a death grip on the steering apparatus, continued our forward momentum. That evening, I prioritized my offspring's welfare. Anton received successful medical intervention. He has since resumed normal activities, including attendance at his educational facility, and frequently inquires about his godmother. My spouse and I maintain the fiction that she's temporarily abroad. The reality, however, is that Alisa vanished without trace. Law enforcement discovered numerous anomalies upon investigating the secured entrance. The victim's parents, a roused local police representative, and a building management official were present during the forced entry. The apartment inspection revealed no occupants but displayed curious evidence. The kitchen contained an open spirits container and 2 drinking vessels, one depleted, one partially filled. The study remained undisturbed, with computer equipment, valuables, and currency in their original positions. The entrance exhibited signs of forced access, with traces of biological material, specifically, several strands of hair. Adjacent to these, investigators documented 2-minute bloodstains and recovered the victim's mobile device. These constitute the verifiable elements of the incident. The building's surveillance system was non-operational due to power failure. While authorities presumably obtained earlier recordings, investigation progress remains undisclosed. The apartment's legitimate occupant professed no knowledge regarding unauthorized presence in his residence. He returned from travel at investigators' behest. The lead investigator maintained surveillance of Alisa's parents and myself, conducting regular interrogations with implicit accusations, seemingly attempting to extract a confession. My household exists in perpetual anxiety, particularly disturbed by the perpetrator's knowledge of our location. The demonstrated ability to bypass security measures presents an ongoing threat. The possibility of experiencing Alisa's fate looms constantly. Nocturnal rest proves elusive, plagued by recurring nightmares. I repeatedly revisit that evening, searching through darkened rooms for my friend's keys, oblivious to the lurking presence. The entity waited in darkness, observing my departure, leaving a vulnerable young woman in isolation. Gera, he's here. Alisa's dream voice echoes, eternally beyond my reach. The roadway materializes before my consciousness, hands frozen upon the black steering mechanism, foot autonomously engaging the accelerator. The mobile device falls, communication ceases, and Alisa's final scream reverberates into eternal silence. Well, friends, that concludes our horror portion today. But remember, the darkness is always around, and it is waiting for its time to remind you again. If you enjoyed tickling your nerves and dive into the world of mystery and mysticism, do not forget to put a like, comment and, of course, subscribe to the channel. After all, ahead of you awaits more chilling stories that make your blood run cold in your veins. Click on the bell to not miss new videos, and remember, sometimes the worst is what is hidden in silence. See you in the next installment. Unless, of course, you're afraid.